Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one.
The introduction. In the small town of Clearwater, nestled between rolling hills and dense pine forests, an unsettling calm hung in the air. It was a place where everyone knew one another, where front porches served as gathering spots, and where the sound of children's laughter echoed down quiet streets. This picturesque setting, often bathed in warm sunlight, held an undercurrent of darkness that few could sense, until the day it emerged with bone-chilling clarity. It was a late autumn morning when the first signs of the gathering storm appeared. The air was crisp, tinged with the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. As dawn broke, the residents of Clearwater began their routines, unaware that their town was on the brink of a devastating event. The town square bustled with activity. Shopkeepers swept the sidewalks, and joggers hustled on their familiar paths. But back in the woods just outside town, one person's life was about to change forever. At around 8 a.m., an early morning hiker named Ruth Keller set out for her usual walk through the wooded trails. Ruth, a retired librarian known for her vibrant stories and warm hugs, savored the quiet. The crunch of leaves underfoot was music to her ears. But that serenity fractured when she stumbled upon a grotesque scene, obscured by the underbrush of body, cold and lifeless, partially hidden among the tangled roots and fallen branches. As she called the authorities, a sense of dread settled over Clearwater. Questions rushed through Ruth's mind. Who was this person? How had they ended up here? Little did she know, the answers would reveal dark secrets buried deep within the town's facade. The innocence of Clearwater was about to be shattered forever. The victim. The police arrived swiftly, their squad car slicing through the morning calm like knives. Ruth stood to the side, her breath hitching as she pointed to the overgrown area where she had discovered the body. Officers exchanged cautious glances, the urgency in their movement signaling the severity of the situation. Unbeknownst to Ruth, they were about to unravel the life and tragic end of a young woman named Emily Carr. Emily was 23, vibrant and full of dreams. A recent college graduate, she had returned to Clearwater with aspirations to open her own art studio. Her passion for creativity was palpable, and when she spoke of her vision, her blue eyes sparkled with hope. However, as the weeks turned into months, the challenges of starting a business bore down on. Isolation crept into her life, and some wondered if the town had been too small to contain her ambitions. Friends recalled late-night conversations fraught with anxiety, and the occasional mention of feeling overwhelmed. The coroner's office worked behind the barrier of yellow tape, their sullen faces reflecting the sorrow of another life extinguished too soon. The body identified as Emily showed signs of struggle, her clothes torn and smudged with dirt. As investigators probed deeper, they discovered something both shocking and revealing. Emily had last been seen at a local art gallery, just days before her untimely end. Rumors spread through Clearwater like wildfire. Gossip filled the air in coffee shops and hair salons. Whispers echoed down the aisles of the grocery store. Who would want to hurt a girl like Emily? Behind the tight smiles and polite nods lay unaddressed tensions that hinted at a web woven with betrayal, jealousy, and dark secrets deserving of unearthing. As officers began canvassing the town for leads, The chilling realization settled in. Emily Carter was not just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a dreamer whose story had only just begun. Clearwater was about to confront its past, and the threads of Emily's life would unravel in ways no one could foresee. Crime scene. The wooded area where Emily Carter was discovered was confined by towering pines, casting long shadows over the scene. Officers cordoned off the area, creating a perimeter of yellow tape that seemed flimsy against the weight of tragedy. Surrounding underbrush had been stomped down, evidence of struggles and rapid movements. Every fallen leaf and snapped twig became a potential clue in the search for answers. Detective Laura Sinclair, a seasoned investigator with over a decade on the force, stepped into the crime scene, her keen hazel eyes scanning the surroundings. She understood better than most that the nature of such scenes could often mislead. It wasn't always about the visible signs. It was the whispers of the environment that spoke the loudest. She knelt beside the body, taking in the details. Emily's once bright clothing was now a dark canvas of debris, her fingers delicately clasped as if in a final plea for help. Nearby, a forensics team carefully collected evidence, placing items into evidence bags with meticulous attention. They combed through the leaves, searching for anything that might give insight into Emily's last moments. A broken bracelet caught the light, its silver links half buried beneath the soil. Detective Sinclair's heart sank, knowing that each fragment collected painted a clearer picture of desperation and fear. As they worked, she turned her attention to the clues around them. The absence of a weapon suggested an assault rather than a murder committed in cold blood. The scuff marks on the ground hinted at a struggle, leading to a deeper inquiry into Emily's relationships, while the placement of her body tucked between a cluster of trees suggested someone had tried to hide their shape. Sinclair ordered a search of the surrounding woods and questioned nearby residents for any signs of unusual activity. There was something unsettling about the coincidence that Emily had vanished weeks before her body was found. But there was little data at this point to form a clear theory. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange hue over the forest. As evening approached, a gust of wind whispered through the trees, a reminder that nature remained indifferent amid its human anguish. Sinclair resolved to uncover the truth, no matter how many layers of deception lay hidden beneath Clearwater's serene facade. With each discovery, she became more determined to bring justice to Emily Carter, even if the cost would fracture the very foundation on which the town stood. The early investigation. With the discovery of Emily Carter's body, the small town of Clearwater found itself thrust into a storm of scrutiny and fear. Detective Laura Sinclair knew that the first hours following a homicide were critical, and as she gathered her team in the unwarranted chaos of the precinct, a palpable tension filled the room. The investigation needed a swift and steady hand. It was time to piece together the fragments of Emily's last days. The first step was to establish a timeline. Sinclair assigned officers to interview Emily's friends and family, hoping they could provide insights into her life leading up to her disappearance. As the interviews began, a picture started to emerge. Emily had been increasingly withdrawn, often retreating to her art studio to work on pieces that reflected her inner turmoil. Friends hinted at a recent breakup, a relationship that had become toxic, leaving Emily feeling isolated and vulnerable. Concurrently, officers canvassed the area surrounding the art gallery where Emily had last been seen. The gallery owner, Dale Price, recalled her visiting several times before her disappearance, and mentioned that she'd been excited about an upcoming exhibition. He noted how an artist's passion could often disguise their pain. His well-intentioned statement gnawed at Sinclair. Had he missed signs of Emily's distress? As night approached, the department received a breakthrough. A local resident reported seeing a woman matching Emily's description arguing with a man in a dark SUV just days before she was found. Sinclair's heart raced. The combination of a confrontation and an isolated setting pointed toward a person of interest who could hold the answers to the questions swirling like autumn leaves in the cold wind. This lead set the wheels in motion. Officer Hart drove through the neighborhood, reaching out to anyone who may have seen that vehicle, while Sinclair combed through surveillance footage from the block near the gallery, searching for secrets hidden in the shadows. The atmosphere in Clearwater thickened with uncertainty as the night deepened. In the distance, sirens wailed, a reminder that the fabric of their community had been permanently torn. The townsfolk continued their routines, but under the surface, whispers deepened, and cracks appeared in the serene monotony of everyday life. Everyone felt the unease. No one was ever prepared to confront the dark underbelly of their closely knit world. The dead ends. In the days that followed the initial investigation, the fervor that had consumed Clearwater began to dwindle as leads grew scarce. Detective Laura Sinclair felt the weight of mounting frustration, each passing hour presenting more questions than answers. The vibrant colors of fall gave way to the dreary gray of winter, mirroring the sense of despair that nestled itself within the precinct. The man in the dark SUV remained elusive. Despite reaching out to hundreds of residents, no one had come forward with useful information. Surveillance footage revealed only mundane movement, cars passing by, employees entering businesses, and children playing each frame, glaringly devoid of the moment when Emily had needed help the most. Sinclair watched the footage repeatedly, willing something to jump out at her, but the pixels offered nothing but an unfathomable void. Meanwhile, the tension among Emily's friends was palpable. Those she had once shared laughter and dreams with were now shrouded in suspicion, their tight-knit bonds fraying under the weight of grief and guilt. Sinclair interviewed them one by one, but they all maintained their innocence, each statement weaving a tale of distress and confusion. One friend, Sarah, mentioned that she had seen Emily arguing with a mutual acquaintance, a man named Jake, just days before her disappearance. Sinclair noted Jake's name, but when officers tracked him down, they found him engaging in a mundane routine with a solid alibi, confirmed by surveillance footage from the bar he worked at. Potential suspects kept slipping through their fingers like sand, each dead end amplifying Sinclair's sense of urgency. The detectives pored over social media in search of leads, sifting through Emily's friends' posts and hidden messages, anything that might uncover motives in the tangled emotions surrounding her life. Yet, time after time, hope morphed into despair. As the investigation lost momentum, whispers of doubt began creeping through Clearwater. Citizens questioned the competence of the police department. Rumors swirled, and with them, the tide of fear washed over those who had claimed to know Emily intimately. Secrets, jealousy, and rivalry, their implications became an omnipresent shadow, looming over the top. For Detective Sinclair, the dead ends were not just failures, they were a stark reminder of the consequences of unresolved pain. Shadows of an artist unfulfilled. He sat alone in her office late one evening, staring at wall of photographs, Emily smiling with friends, sharing moments of joy, capturing living memories that now felt unbearably heavy. she vowed that their collective efforts would not be in vain. Somewhere, hidden beneath layers of deception, lay the truth waiting to be uncovered, and she was determined to find a break in the case. It was a damp Tuesday morning when a glimmer of hope began to shine through the haze of frustration that had enveloped Detective Laura Sinclair. While reviewing the endless stack of evidence and witness statements, she received a call from the forensics lab that sparked a newfound sense of urgency. A partial fingerprint lifted from Emily's bracelet, a clue that had seemed insignificant initially, matched a profile in their database. The name was Cameron Green, a local from Clearwater with a history of petty theft and just enough of a record to raise suspicions. Sinclair's heart raced as she moved quickly to gather her team. This was not just a name. It was a link tethering the endless cycle of dead ends to the vivid life that had once belonged to Emily. Cameron had been in trouble before for breaking into cars and had circled the peripheries of Emily's social circle, though he had no known direct relationship with her. Sinclair instructed her team to track him down and obtain more information on his whereabouts during the days leading to Emily's disappearance. A sense of electric anticipation hummed in the precinct as officers dispatched to locate Cameron. Just hours later, they returned with news. He had been spotted at a local diner, seated alone, nursing a cup of black coffee. The detectives wasted no time. After a quick regroup, Sinclair gathered a small team and headed to the diner. As they entered, the vague smell of grease and the din of silverware faded into the background. All eyes in the diner were drawn to the detectives as they approached Cameron, who shifted uncomfortably in his seat, the color draining from his face upon seeing them. "Cameron Green?" Sinclair asked, her voice steady. He nodded, the defiance in his body language faltering under the weight of their scrutiny. "Mind if we ask you a few questions?" She gestured for him to stand. "It's about Emily Carter." The shift in the diner's atmosphere was immediate. Conversations halted and eyes widened. Sinclair felt the weight of the town's expectation bear down on her as she led Cameron outside. She had no illusions of this being an easy conversation. Intimidation wasn't her goal, but clarity was necessary. In the harsh light of day, surrounded by still fallen leaves, Sinclair questioned him about his whereabouts during the time Emily had gone missing. Cameron hesitated, his gaze darting away, but she pressed, feeling the significance of this moment. "You were seen near the gallery the last night she was alive, weren't you?" As Cameron stammered through his excuses, a flicker of guilt crossed his face. His words melted into incoherency, and something in Sinclair clicked. The pieces were coming together. She knew from experience that often fear and anxiety revealed more than mere words could convey. This was the break she had been waiting for. It would either unravel the truth or cast the investigation into further doubt. As the chill of impending winter brushed past them, Sinclair understood one crucial thing. Sometimes it was within the shadows of secrets where the truth could be found, and she was ready to shine a light on every hidden corner, to confront it all, no matter where the path might lead. The suspect. The diner cast long shadows as Detective Laura Sinclair led Cameron Green into the cooler, or sterile environment of the precinct interrogation room. Bright overhead lights buzzed, emphasizing the starkness of the room, its white walls closing in and as if to suffocate any lingering secrets. Sinclair gestured for Cameron to sit, watching as he shifted nervously in his chair, glancing at the closed door as if it provided an escape. "Cameron, let's be honest here," she began, leaning forward slightly. "You've been in trouble before." "You've been in trouble before, we both know that. But this is serious." A young woman is dead. and we need to understand your connection to her. Cameron cleaved to silence, his eyes a slurry of emotion, but there was something deeper than fear. The flickerings of a defense mechanism, a fidgeting mind twisting facts to fit his narrative. She recognized it all too well. Sinclair pressed on, her tone measured but firm. "We have your fingerprint on her bracelet. Why were you near Emily Carter that night?" The confession came like a soft undercurrent, hesitant but eventually surfacing. I didn't mean to hurt her," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I just wanted to talk to her, to get back at her boyfriend for messing with me." The truth emerged like sticky strands from behind his careful facade. Cameron's connection to Emily surfaced a convoluted web of jealousy and anger stemming from a past altercation with Emily's boyfriend, Mark, who had once publicly humiliated. The more he spoke, the more Sinclair pieced together the threat. "Were you using drugs that night?" she interjected, noting the erratic behavior and paranoia spilling from his present words. No excuses came forth as the reality of the situation settled. "I knocked on her window. I thought maybe he could hash things out," he mumbled. But when she opened the door, it just got out of hand. Sinclair listened carefully as the heartbreaking dynamics unfolded. Emily had likely tried to shut the door on their past, and when Cameron had crossed that threshold, emotions driven by anger and inadequacy spiraled. "What happened next?" he demanded gently, coaxing out the full story. I pushed her. I didn't mean to. But she fell, and then I panicked." Tears welled in his eyes, shadows of his bravado crumbling. "I didn't look back. I just ran." Sinclair inhaled deeply, the weight of his confession saturating the air. A sense of urgency propelled her. They were quick to sharpen the outlines of her narrative. "Cameron, you have to understand, if this is how it happened, you need to tell it to us. This isn't just an argument anymore. This is about a life lost." As he began to recount the full details, a mix of shame and fear intertwined within Cameron's restless words. Each sentence brought clarity, but also churned the already murky waters of a small town harboring deep wounds. Sinclair's mind raced, recognizing the revelation sent ripples of fear through the community. This was not merely about Cameron Green as a suspect. It exposed the cracks and conflict within Clearwater. Soon, the facade that had protected the town would no longer hold. Each person would need to confront the consequences of secrets long buried. And it was her duty to ensure that Emily Carter's story was told and honored, even as it unraveled the very essence of the life once lived in the shadows of pristine Chara. The trial. The courthouse loomed large, a granite fortress filled with whispers and uncertainty. As the day of Cameron Green's trial approached, Clearwater grappled with the ramifications of betrayal and loss. The once charming town had turned into a theater of tension. Seats in the courtroom overflowed with residents eager to witness justice for Emily. Detective Laura Sinclair stood among them, her heart heavy with the memories of the young woman whose dreams had been cruelly snuffed out. The atmosphere inside the courtroom was thick, almost tangible. Family members of both Cameron and Emily filled the rows, faces lined with anguish, anger, and confusion. Sinclair took a moment to absorb the solemnity, knowing that while the room buzzed with life, it simultaneously bore the weight of life lost. The prosecution laid out a stark narrative tragedy of Emily's life, illustrated through a timeline of events, culminating in the disastrous night and Cameron's anger had turned fit. Emotional testimonies echoed, detailing the dreams Emily had pursued, what she represented to those who adored her, how quickly everything had evaporated. As her friends spoke of her talent and spirit, Sinclair's eyes flicked to Cameron. He sat quietly, staring at the table, his earlier bravado swallowed by the gravity of his choices. With each witness, Cameron's defense team pushed back. They argued recklessly that his actions had been a moment of youthful impulsiveness, a misguided attempt to confront an ex-boyfriend, rather than a cowardly act of murder. Yet as the evidence unfolded, the anguish in testimonies, the murder weapon, and the emotional weight of surveillance footage at those lines became blurrier. Day turned to night, the courtroom flickering between the stark overhead lights and shadows cast from the flickering window blinds. Sinclair couldn't shake the feeling that everyone present was grappling with some measure of guilt. Whether it was from inaction, ignorance, or bitterness, the trial was about much more than Cameron. It dissected the careless rivalries and unresolved grudges within the social fabric of Clearwater. Decision day arrived ominously. Silence settling over the courtroom like a somber shroud. Sinclair watched as the jury filed in, their faces impassive, yet the tension was deafening. They would soon determine the fate of a young man whose life had intertwined tragically with Emily's. Sinclair felt a swell of hope the evidence presented, the courage of Emily's friends, the contrast between art and aggression. It painted a picture that deserved justice. As the verdict was read, a collective breath hung in the air. "We find the defendant guilty of manslaughter," the statement stung. But when the jury explained their rationale, the courtroom erupted into chaos. Grief-stricken triumph for Emily's supporters clashed with anguished sobs from Cameron's side. In the aftermath, as people poured into the streets, a complex tapestry of emotions surfaced. Sinclair cherished the moments where Emily had laughed with her friends, but the echoes of resentment rang loudly. Clearwater was forever changed. The scars would linger, and the conversations about mental health, isolation, and the importance of communication would ring hollow in the wake of instability. In the quiet following the tumult, Sinclair sat alone in her car, peering through the windshield at the sun setting over the horizon. The sky morphed into brilliant shades of lavender and gold, a stark contrast to the dark reality they had just faced. Justice had unfolded, but at what cost? She resolved to keep shining a light on the shadows that had consumed Emily Carter, hoping to honor her memory beyond the courtroom and perhaps reigniting the spirit of creativity that had once burned bright within. The aftermath. As the dust of the trial settled, Clearwater began the painful journey of grappling with the aftermath. The tension that had seized the town slowly transformed into a heavy blanket of mourning, a communal inhalation that could not exhale. The verdict had partially quelled the storm of emotions, but it left behind scars that were far from healing. Detective Laura Sinclair found herself reflecting on the fragility of life as she walked through the now almost empty streets. The leaves had turned a darker shade of brown, mirroring the somber reality that everyone was now forced to confront. Emily Carter was gone, and her absence was an echo felt in every corner of the town. Art galleries that once brimmed with energy faced decreased foot traffic. The vibrancy of creativity dimmed like a flickering light bulb, leaving hushed conversations in its wake. In the weeks following the trial, Sinclair took a different approach to her work. No longer just a relentless investigator, she became a catalyst for dialogue within Clearwater. She organized community forums, inviting mental health professionals to speak on grief, anxiety, and the importance of empathy in relationships. Every session was filled with the weight of collective sorrow, revealing buried emotions, regrets, and unspoken worry. While some residents remained distant, defensive, and reluctant to participate, others connected deeply, sharing their vulnerabilities and acknowledging the quiet battles many faced each day. The forums became a sanctuary for those longing to express their pain, reminding them that they were not alone in their struggle. Sinclair stood at the forefront, listening, facilitating conversations that needed to be had, and cherishing every moment of vulnerability shared under her watch. Meanwhile, Emily's family encountered a silent struggle of their own. The loss became a wound stitched into the fabric of their daily lives, with her artwork serving as bittersweet reminders of what could have been. They set up a scholarship in her name, aimed at supporting young artists in Clearwater, hoping to ensure that Emily's dreams lived on long after her tragic end. As for Cameron Green, his legal consequences sent ripples through the community. Sentenced to a lengthy term in a juvenile facility due to his age at the time of the crime, he became a cautionary tale within town, a stark reminder of how heated emotions could spiral into tragedy. Sinclair visited him, curious to see if a glimpse of remorse had emerged during his time in custody. His words were hesitant, filled with sorrow and regret. "I didn't think," he murmured. "I just wanted to make things right in that moment." Perhaps, amidst the wreckage of choices unfurled, growth and change could blossom in unexpected places. Sinclair hoped that through understanding both personal and communal, these scars would start to fade, not to forget, but to strengthen the bonds of empathy toward one another. As winter settled over Clearwater, the chills served as a reminder of the stark realities of the human condition. Yet there was warmth in the burgeoning conversations. Detective Sinclair stood on the threshold of a new era for the town. With every story told, every tear shed, the healing process began unfurling gently, like the first buds of spring breaking through the fall. Clearwater was rewriting its narrative, one of sorrow and regret, but also resilience, compassion, and commitment, a testament to the life of Emily Carter, which, though extinguished far too early, would forever illuminate their path toward understanding and healing. Reflection. As the first snow blankets Clearwater, the town settles into a contemplative silence. Detective Laura Sinclair finds herself swept up in a bittersweet intertwining of memory and resolve. Snowflakes drift lazily outside her window, mirroring thoughts that swirl within her, a flurry of images captured in the delicate dance of life and loss. Standing before a canvas in her living room of Emily Carter's unfinished works, she realizes it is not merely a painting, but a narrative of resilience, a testament to hopes unrealized. Each brushstroke embodies what have been shattered by chaos, but also serves as a reminder of the potential for rebirth. Emily's dreams, her light, continued to resonate, pressing Sinclair to honor her legacy with fervor. In the quiet of her home, rolled up canvases leaning against the wall like distant memories yearning for a voice, Sinclair reflects on the journey they had unraveled: darkness, doubts, anger, and hidden connections within Clearwater. The events surrounding Emily's tragic end had spurred change beyond the courthouse walls. The community now emphasized vulnerability, connection, and the candid conversations that could stave off despair.